In today's video, we'll explore the top 30 data analyst interview questions and answers you'll be asked by hiring managers during your interview. Each answer can be customized to highlight your unique qualifications and experiences. Before your interview, it's important to research the company and review the job description so you can incorporate key skills relevant to the job role in your answers. Question number 1. Tell me about your experience as a data analyst. Hiring managers ask this to quickly understand your background, technical depth, and how you translate data into business impact. They are looking for more than tools. They want to see how you think, how you solve problems, and how your work influences decisions. A strong answer should highlight your workflow, from data collection to insight delivery, while showing measurable outcomes. Keep your response structured, relevant, and focused on real results rather than listing tools. First, here's a sample answer for someone who has experience working as a data analyst. I would describe my experience as a data analyst as focused on turning raw data into clear, actionable insights that drive business decisions. In my previous role, I worked with large data sets using SQL and Excel to clean, organize, and analyze information, and I used visualization tools like Tableau to present findings in a way stakeholders could easily understand. One project I'm particularly proud of involved analyzing customer behavior data to identify patterns in churn. By segmenting users and identifying key drop-off points, I was able to highlight specific areas where the company was losing engagement. I presented these insights to the product and marketing teams, which led to targeted changes that improved retention over the following quarter. Beyond technical skills, I focus heavily on understanding the business context behind the data, because insights are only valuable if they lead to action. Overall, I see my role as bridging the gap between data and decision-making in a way that creates measurable impact. Next, here's a sample answer for someone who has no experience working as a data analyst. I would describe my experience as a data analyst as being in the early stages, with a strong focus on building practical skills and applying them to real-world scenarios. While I may not have formal work experience in a data analyst role, yet I have developed hands-on experience through projects where I worked with datasets using tools like Excel and SQL. For example, I completed a project where I analyzed publicly available sales data to identify trends and create visual dashboards that clearly communicated insights. Through this, I learned how to clean data, identify patterns, and present findings in a structured way. I've also spent time learning Python for data analysis, focusing on libraries like pandas to manipulate and explore data. What I bring is a strong attention to detail, curiosity, and a willingness to continuously learn and improve. I understand that the role is not just about analyzing data, but about helping businesses make better decisions, and that's something I'm very motivated to contribute to. Question number 2. What tools and technologies are you most comfortable using? Hiring managers ask this to understand your technical stack and whether it aligns with their environment. They are not just looking for a list of tools. They want to see how you actually use them to solve problems and deliver insights. A strong answer should connect tools to outcomes, showing how each one fits into your workflow. Focus on practical application, not just familiarity. I'm most comfortable working with a combination of SQL, Excel, and visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI, as they allow me to cover the full data analysis workflow from extraction to presentation. I typically use SQL to query and join datasets, ensuring I'm working with accurate and relevant data. From there, I use Excel or Python depending on the complexity of the analysis. Excel for quick exploration and Python when I need more advanced manipulation or automation. For presenting insights, I rely on Tableau or Power BI to create dashboards that make the data easy to understand for stakeholders. In one project, I used SQL to extract customer data, cleaned and analyzed it in Python, and then built a dashboard in Tableau that highlighted key trends in user behavior. This helped the team identify areas of improvement and adjust their strategy. I focus on using tools efficiently rather than using many tools, ensuring that each one adds value to the analysis and decision-making process. Question number 3. How do you clean and prepare data for analysis? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your attention to detail and your ability to work with imperfect data. They want to see a structured approach to handling missing values, inconsistencies, and errors. A strong answer should show your process step by step and emphasize accuracy and reliability. It should also reflect that you understand data quality directly impacts insights. I approach data cleaning and preparation as one of the most critical steps in the analysis process because the quality of insights depends entirely on the quality of the data. I start by understanding the dataset, its structure, sources, and any known limitations. From there, I check for missing values, duplicates, and inconsistencies, and decide how to handle them based on the context, whether that's removing, imputing, or flagging them. I also standardize formats, such as dates or categories, to ensure consistency across the dataset. In one project, I worked with a dataset that had inconsistent customer identifiers, which would have led to inaccurate analysis. I resolved this by creating a standardized format and validating it across multiple tables. I also document all changes so the process is transparent and repeatable. Overall, I focus on creating a clean, reliable dataset that can be confidently used for analysis and decision-making. Question number 4. Explain a time you used data to solve a business problem. Hiring managers ask this to see how you apply your skills in real situations and whether your work leads to meaningful outcomes. They want a clear story with a problem, your approach, and the result. A strong answer should highlight your thinking process, not just the tools used. It should also show measurable impact. In one project, I was tasked with understanding why a product's engagement was declining despite steady traffic. I started by analyzing user behavior data, focusing on key metrics like session duration, drop-off points, and feature usage. I noticed that while users were entering the platform at consistent rates, there was a significant drop-off at a specific stage in the user journey. To understand this further, I segmented users based on behavior and identified that new users were struggling with onboarding. I presented these findings to the product team, along with recommendations to simplify the onboarding process and provide clearer guidance. After these changes were implemented, we tracked the same metrics and saw a noticeable improvement in user engagement and retention. This experience showed me the importance of not just analyzing data, but connecting it to user behavior and business outcomes. It also reinforced that clear communication of insights is just as important as the analysis itself. Question number 5. What is the difference between structured and unstructured data? Hiring managers ask this to check your foundational understanding of data types and how they impact analysis. They want to see that you can not only define the difference, but also explain how it affects storage, processing, and use cases. A strong answer should connect theory to real-world applications and demonstrate practical awareness. Structured data is data that is organized in a defined format, typically in rows and columns, such as what you would find in relational databases. It's easy to query using tools like SQL and is commonly used for transactional systems or reporting. Unstructured data, on the other hand, doesn't follow a predefined format. This includes things like text, images, or logs. In my experience, most business analysis relies heavily on structured data because it's easier to work with and analyze efficiently. However, unstructured data can provide deeper insights when processed correctly. For example, I've worked on a project where structured customer data showed trends in behavior, but combining it with unstructured feedback from customer reviews helped explain the why behind those trends. Understanding both types allows me to approach analysis more holistically and choose the right tools and methods depending on the data available and the problem I'm solving. Question number 6. How do you handle missing or incomplete data? Hiring managers ask this to assess your decision-making and attention to data quality. They want to see that you don't blindly fill gaps, but instead make thoughtful, context-driven decisions. A strong answer should show multiple approaches and when to use each. When handling missing or incomplete data, I first try to understand why the data is missing, because the reason often determines the best approach. If the missing data is minimal and doesn't significantly impact the analysis, I may remove those records to keep the dataset clean. In other cases, I use imputation techniques such as filling missing values with averages, medians, or more advanced methods depending on the dataset. I also consider whether missing data itself carries meaning. For example, a missing value might indicate a user didn't complete an action, which can be valuable insight. In one project, I worked with a dataset where missing values were tied to user inactivity, so instead of removing them, I flagged them as a separate category to analyze behavior patterns. I also make sure to document how missing data is handled to maintain transparency. Overall, my approach is to handle missing data carefully so the integrity of the analysis is preserved. Question number 7. What is your experience with SQL and how have you used it? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your ability to work directly with data in databases. They want to see practical application, not just knowledge of commands. A strong answer should include examples of how you've used SQL to solve problems or extract insights. First, here's a sample answer for someone who has experience working with SQL. I've used SQL extensively as part of my data analysis workflow to extract, manipulate, and validate data from relational databases. I'm comfortable writing complex queries involving joins, aggregations, subqueries, and window functions to answer specific business questions. In one project, I used SQL to combine data from multiple tables to analyze customer purchase behavior across different segments. This allowed me to identify trends that weren't visible when looking at individual datasets. I also use SQL to validate data accuracy before performing deeper analysis, ensuring that the dataset is reliable. Beyond analysis, I've used SQL to automate recurring queries, which helps save time and ensures consistency in reporting. I see SQL as a foundational tool for any data analyst because it provides direct access to the data and allows for efficient problem solving. My focus is always on writing clean, optimized queries that deliver accurate results quickly. Next, here's a sample answer for someone who has no experience working with SQL. I've developed a solid foundation in SQL through hands-on projects and continuous learning. While I may not have extensive professional experience yet, I've worked with SQL to query datasets, perform joins, and aggregate data to answer specific questions. For example, I completed a project where I used SQL to analyze sales data, combining multiple tables to identify trends and create summaries. This helped me understand how to structure queries and think critically about data relationships. I've also practiced optimizing queries and ensuring data accuracy as part of my learning process. What I bring is a strong understanding of SQL fundamentals and the ability to apply them in practical scenarios. I'm confident in my ability to continue developing my SQL skills quickly in a professional environment and contribute to data-driven decision-making from day one. Question number 8. How do you ensure data accuracy and integrity? Hiring managers ask this to determine how reliable your work is and whether you take responsibility for data quality. They want to see that you have checks in place and don't assume data is always correct. A strong answer should show validation, testing, and attention to detail. I ensure data accuracy and integrity by building validation steps into every stage of my workflow. When I first receive a dataset, I check for inconsistencies, duplicates, and unexpected values to identify any issues early. I also cross-reference data with other sources when possible to confirm accuracy. During analysis, I validate results by running sanity checks and comparing outputs to expected patterns. In one project, I identified discrepancies in reported metrics by tracing the data back to its source and discovering a misalignment in how the data was being captured. Fixing this not only improved accuracy but also prevented future reporting errors. I also document my process and assumptions so others can review and understand how the data was handled. Overall, I treat data accuracy as a critical responsibility because even small errors can lead to incorrect conclusions and impact business decisions. Question number 9. Explain the difference between data analysis and data analytics. Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your conceptual understanding of the field. They want to see that you understand how these terms differ and how they are applied in practice. A strong answer should be clear, concise, and tied to real-world usage. Data analysis focuses on examining datasets to identify patterns, trends, and insights, typically using tools like SQL, Excel, or Python. It's more focused on answering specific questions and understanding what has happened. Data analytics is a broader term that includes data analysis, but also covers the entire process of collecting, organizing, interpreting, and using data to support decision-making. In practice, data analytics often includes predictive and prescriptive approaches, while data analysis is more descriptive. In my experience, I've primarily worked on data analysis tasks, but within a larger analytics framework where insights are used to guide business strategy. For example, analyzing customer data to identify trends is data analysis, but using those insights to predict future behavior and inform decisions is part of data analytics. Understanding the difference helps me position my work within the bigger picture of how data supports the business. Question number 10. How do you prioritize multiple data requests from stakeholders? Hiring managers ask this to assess your time management and communication skills. They want to see that you can balance competing priorities while maintaining quality. A strong answer should show structure, transparency, and alignment with business goals. When prioritizing multiple data requests, I start by understanding the business impact of each request. I assess which tasks are tied to critical decisions, deadlines, or high-value outcomes, and prioritize those accordingly. I also communicate directly with stakeholders to clarify expectations and timelines, which helps prevent misunderstandings. If needed, I break larger requests into smaller tasks so progress can be made without delaying other work. In one situation, I manage multiple requests by creating a simple prioritization framework based on urgency and impact, which helps stakeholders understand why certain tasks were being addressed first. I also provide regular updates so everyone stays informed. By staying organized and transparent, I'm able to manage multiple priorities effectively while ensuring that the most important work gets done on time and with high quality. Question number 11. What data visualization tools have you used and why? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your ability to present data clearly and effectively. They want to see that you choose tools based on purpose, not preference. A strong answer should connect tools to communication and decision-making. I've used tools like Tableau and Power BI to create dashboards and visualizations that make complex data easier to understand for stakeholders. I choose these tools because they allow for interactive and dynamic reporting, which helps users explore the data rather than just view it. In one project, I built a dashboard that tracked key performance metrics, allowing leadership to quickly identify trends and make informed decisions. I focus on designing visualizations that are clear, intuitive, and aligned with the audience's needs, avoiding unnecessary complexity. I also pay attention to how data is presented, ensuring that the most important insights stand out. For me, data visualization is not just about creating charts, it's about telling a story with data in a way that drives action. By using the right tools effectively, I'm able to bridge the gap between analysis and decision-making. Question number 12. How do you communicate technical findings to non-technical stakeholders? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your ability to translate complex data into clear business insights. They want to see that you can simplify without losing meaning and tailor your message to the audience. A strong answer should show structure, clarity, and an understanding that communication drives action. I communicate technical findings to non-technical stakeholders by focusing on clarity, relevance, and impact rather than technical detail. I start by understanding what the stakeholder cares about, whether it's revenue, efficiency, or customer experience, and then frame the insights around that. Instead of explaining how I built the analysis, I focus on what the data shows and what it means for the business. I also use simple visuals and clear language to make the information easy to digest. In one project, I presented customer behavior data to a marketing team by focusing on key trends and actionable recommendations rather than the underlying models. This helped them quickly understand the insights and make decisions without getting overwhelmed. I also encourage questions to ensure alignment. My goal is always to bridge the gap between data and decision-making by making insights accessible and actionable for any audience. Question number 13. Describe a dashboard you created and its impact. Hiring managers ask this to assess your ability to turn data into usable tools for decision-making. They want to see that your work is practical, not just analytical. A strong answer should include the purpose, design, and measurable impact of the dashboard. In one project, I created a dashboard to track key performance metrics for a sales team that previously relied on manual reports. I started by working with stakeholders to understand what metrics were most important and how they were being used. Based on that, I designed a dashboard that provided real-time visibility into performance, including trends, targets, and key drivers. I focused on making it intuitive so users could quickly find the information they needed without additional explanation. After implementation, the team was able to reduce the time spent on reporting and focus more on decision-making. It also improved alignment across the team because everyone was working from the same data. Leadership used the dashboard regularly to monitor performance and identify areas for improvement. This project showed me how effective visualization can not only save time but also improve the overall quality of decisions being made. Question number 14. What is the difference between correlation and causation? Hiring managers ask this to test your understanding of a key analytical concept. They want to see that you can interpret data correctly and avoid misleading conclusions. A strong answer should be clear, accurate, and include a practical example. Correlation refers to a relationship between two variables where they move together, while causation means that one variable directly causes the other to change. It's important not to confuse the two, because just because two variables are related doesn't mean one is causing the other. In my analysis, I always take a cautious approach when interpreting correlations and look for additional evidence before suggesting causation. For example, I once observed a correlation between increased marketing spend and higher sales, but further analysis showed that seasonality was also a factor influencing both variables. This reinforced the importance of considering external factors and validating findings before drawing conclusions. I focus on clearly communicating these distinctions to stakeholders so decisions are based on accurate interpretations. Understanding the difference helps prevent incorrect assumptions and ensures that insights are reliable and meaningful. Question number 15. How do you approach exploratory data analysis? Hiring managers ask this to understand how you begin analyzing a new data set. They want to see structure, curiosity, and your ability to uncover insights without bias. A strong answer should outline your process and emphasize discovery. When approaching exploratory data analysis, I start by familiarizing myself with the data set to understand its structure, variables, and potential limitations. I then perform initial checks, such as summary statistics and data distributions, to identify patterns, outliers, or anomalies. Visualization plays a key role at this stage, as it helps reveal trends that may not be obvious from raw data alone. I also ask questions about the data, such as what trends exist, what relationships might be present, and where there are gaps. In one project, this approach helped me identify an unexpected pattern in user behavior that led to deeper analysis and actionable insights. I make sure to remain objective and avoid jumping to conclusions too early. Exploratory analysis is about discovery, and I see it as a critical step that sets the foundation for more detailed and focused analysis later on. Question number 16. What is your experience with Excel for data analysis? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your proficiency with one of the most widely used tools in data analysis. They want to see practical usage, not just familiarity. A strong answer should highlight functions, analysis techniques, and efficiency. First, here's a sample answer for someone who has experience working with Excel for data analysis. I've used Excel extensively for data analysis, particularly for cleaning data, performing calculations, and creating quick summaries. I'm comfortable with functions like VLOOKUP, index match, pivot tables, and conditional formatting to analyze and organize data efficiently. In one project, I used pivot tables to quickly summarize large datasets and identify trends, which helped guide further analysis. I also use Excel for exploratory analysis when I need quick insights before moving into more advanced tools. What I value about Excel is its flexibility and speed for handling many types of analysis. I also focus on keeping my work organized and easy to follow, especially when sharing files with others. While I use other tools for more complex analysis, Excel remains a key part of my workflow for quick, effective data exploration and reporting. Next, here's a sample answer for someone who has no experience working with Excel for data analysis. I've built a strong foundation in Excel through hands-on practice and projects focused on data analysis. I've worked with functions like VLOOKUP, pivot tables, and basic formulas to clean and analyze datasets. For example, I completed a project where I used Excel to analyze sales data and identify trends, which helped me understand how to structure and interpret data effectively. I've also practiced organizing data and creating simple visualizations to present findings clearly. While I'm still developing my skills, I'm confident in my ability to use Excel to perform meaningful analysis and continue improving quickly. I see Excel as an essential tool for data analysis and have made it a priority to become proficient in it as I build my career. Question number 17. How do you handle large datasets efficiently? Hiring managers ask this to assess your technical efficiency and problem-solving skills. They want to see that you can work with data at scale without slowing down performance. A strong answer should show tools, strategies, and optimization. When working with large datasets, I focus on efficiency both in terms of processing and analysis. I use tools like SQL or Python to handle large volumes of data rather than relying on tools that may struggle with scale. I also optimize queries and workflows to reduce processing time, such as filtering data early or selecting only the necessary columns. In one project, I worked with a large dataset by breaking it into manageable parts and using aggregation techniques to simplify the analysis. This allowed me to maintain performance while still extracting meaningful insights. I also ensure that my code and queries are clean and efficient to avoid unnecessary complexity. Overall, my approach is to use the right tools and strategies to handle scale effectively while maintaining accuracy and speed in the analysis process. Question number 18. Explain a time you found an insight others missed. Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your analytical thinking and curiosity. They want to see that you go beyond surface-level analysis and uncover meaningful insights. A strong answer should include your approach, what you discovered, and the impact. In one project, I was analyzing user engagement data that had already been reviewed by the team, but I noticed that most of the focus was on overall averages. Instead of stopping there, I decided to segment the data by user type and behavior patterns. Through this, I discovered that while overall engagement looked stable, a specific segment of new users was dropping off much earlier than expected. This insight had been missed because it was hidden within the aggregate data. I presented the findings to the product team along with recommendations to improve the onboarding experience for that group. After changes were implemented, we saw an improvement in early-stage retention. This experience reinforced the importance of digging deeper into the data and not relying solely on high-level metrics. I always look for patterns within segments because that's often where the most valuable insights are found. Question number 19. What is a KPI and how do you determine the right ones? Hiring managers ask this to assess your ability to connect data to business goals. They want to see that you understand what to measure and why it matters. A strong answer should show alignment with objectives and thoughtful selection of metrics. A KPI, or Key Performance Indicator, is a measurable value that reflects how effectively a business is achieving its goals. When determining the right KP is, I start by understanding the overall objective, whether it's increasing revenue, improving retention, or optimizing efficiency. From there, I identify metrics that directly reflect progress toward that goal. For example, if the goal is improving customer retention, relevant KP is might include churn rate or repeat usage. I also make sure KPIs are actionable and measurable, so they can guide decision-making rather than just provide information. In one project, I helped define KPIs for a team that previously tracked too many metrics, which created confusion. By narrowing the focus to a few key indicators, we improved clarity and decision-making. I see KPIs as a way to align teams around what truly matters and ensure that efforts are focused on driving meaningful results. Question number 20. How do you deal with conflicting data or results? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your problem-solving and critical thinking skills. They want to see how you handle uncertainty and ensure accuracy. A strong answer should show investigation, validation, and clear communication. When dealing with conflicting data or results, my first step is to verify the sources and ensure that the data is accurate and consistent. I check for differences in definitions, timeframes, or data collection methods that could explain the discrepancy. In many cases, conflicts arise because data is being interpreted differently or comes from different systems. I also rerun analyses and validate calculations to rule out errors. In one situation, I encountered conflicting reports that were traced back to different filtering criteria being applied. Once identified, I aligned the criteria and resolved the inconsistency. I also communicate clearly with stakeholders about the issue and how it's being addressed to maintain transparency. My goal is to ensure that the final analysis is accurate and reliable. Handling conflicting data carefully is important because decisions depend on the trustworthiness of the insights provided. Question number 21. What is your experience with Python or R for data analysis? Hiring managers ask this to assess your technical capability beyond basic tools. They want to see how you use programming to enhance analysis. A strong answer should include practical usage and outcomes. First, here's a sample answer for someone who has experience working with Python or R for data analysis. I've used Python for data analysis to handle more complex data sets and perform tasks that go beyond what tools like Excel can efficiently manage. I'm comfortable working with libraries like Pandas for data manipulation and Matplotlib or Seaborn for visualization. In one project, I used Python to clean and analyze a data set that was too large for Excel, which allowed me to identify patterns and trends more efficiently. I also used Python to automate parts of the analysis process, which saved time and reduced the risk of errors. What I value about using Python is its flexibility and scalability, especially when working with large or complex datasets. While I continue to build my skills, I focus on applying what I learn in practical scenarios. I see programming as a powerful tool that enhances my ability to analyze data and deliver insights effectively. Next, here's a sample answer for someone who has no experience working with Python or R for data analysis. I've developed a foundational understanding of Python for data analysis through hands-on learning and projects. I've worked with libraries like Pandas to clean and explore datasets, as well as basic visualization tools to present findings. For example, I completed a project where I used Python to analyze publicly available data and identify trends, which helped me understand how to structure and process data programmatically. While I'm still building experience, I'm comfortable with the basics and focused on continuing to improve. I actively practice applying Python to real-world datasets so I can become more efficient and confident. I see Python as an important skill for scaling analysis and handling more complex problems, and I'm motivated to develop it further in a professional setting. Question number 22. How do you validate your analysis before presenting results? Hiring managers ask this to assess your reliability and attention to detail. They want to see that you don't present findings without verifying accuracy. A strong answer should include checks, testing, and review. Before presenting any analysis, I take several steps to ensure the results are accurate and reliable. I start by double-checking the data and calculations to confirm there are no errors. I also run sanity checks by comparing results to expected patterns or historical data. In some cases, I recreate parts of the analysis using a different method to verify consistency. I also review assumptions and ensure they are clearly documented. In one project, I identified an inconsistency during validation that would have led to incorrect conclusions, which reinforced the importance of this step. If possible, I also have a colleague review the work to provide a second perspective. My goal is to ensure that the insights I present are trustworthy and can be confidently used for decision-making. Validation is a critical part of my process because accuracy is essential in any data-driven environment. Question number 23. Explain the concept of data normalization. Hiring managers ask this to test your understanding of database concepts and data organization. They want to see that you understand why normalization is important. A strong answer should be clear, accurate, and practical. Data normalization is the process of organizing data in a way that reduces redundancy and improves consistency within a database. It typically involves breaking data into smaller related tables and defining relationships between them. The goal is to ensure that each piece of information is stored only once, which helps maintain accuracy and makes updates easier. For example, instead of storing customer information repeatedly across multiple tables, normalization would involve creating a separate customer table and linking it through identifiers. In my experience, normalized data structures make it easier to query and maintain data over time. However, I also understand that in some cases, it may be used for performance reasons. The key is understanding when to apply each approach. Overall, normalization helps create a clean and efficient data structure that supports reliable analysis and data management. Question number 24. How do you work with cross-functional teams? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your collaboration and communication skills. They want to see that you can work effectively with different departments. A strong answer should show alignment, communication, and adaptability. I work with cross-functional teams by focusing on clear communication and understanding each team's priorities and challenges. I start by ensuring that everyone is aligned on the goals and how data will support those objectives. I make an effort to translate technical insights into language that each team can understand, which helps build trust and ensures that the data is actually used. In one project, I worked closely with both marketing and product teams to analyze user behavior, making sure each group had the insights they needed to make decisions. I also stay flexible and open to feedback, as different teams often have different perspectives. By maintaining regular communication and keeping everyone informed, I help ensure that collaboration is smooth and effective. I see cross-functional work as an opportunity to create more impactful insights by combining different areas of expertise. Question number 25. What would you do if a stakeholder disagreed with your findings? Hiring managers ask this to assess your communication, confidence, and ability to handle pushback. They want to see that you can stand by your work while remaining open and professional. A strong answer should show listening, validation, and data-backed reasoning rather than defensiveness. If a stakeholder disagreed with my findings, my first step would be to understand their perspective rather than immediately trying to defend my analysis. I would ask questions to clarify their concerns and see if there are any assumptions or context I may have missed. From there, I would walk them through my methodology and the data in a clear and structured way, focusing on how I arrived at the conclusions. If needed, I would revisit the analysis to ensure there are no errors or gaps. In one situation, a stakeholder questioned a trend I presented, and after discussing it further, we discovered that they were referencing a different time frame. Once we aligned on the data, the insight became clear. I believe these situations are opportunities to strengthen understanding and build trust. My goal is not to prove I'm right, but to ensure that decisions are based on accurate and well-understood data. Question number 26. How do you stay updated with data? Trends and tools. Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your commitment to growth in a fast-changing field. They want to see that you actively learn and adapt. A strong answer should include practical ways you stay current and apply what you learn. I stay updated with data trends and tools by consistently dedicating time to learning and exploring new developments in the field. I follow industry blogs, participate in online communities, and take courses to deepen my understanding of new tools and techniques. I also apply what I learned through hands-on projects, which helps reinforce my skills and keeps me comfortable working with different types of data. For example, when I started learning more about Python, I applied it to real data sets to better understand its capabilities compared to Excel. I also stay aware of emerging trends like automation and data storytelling, which are becoming increasingly important. What's important to me is not just learning new tools, but understanding when and how to use them effectively. By staying curious and continuously improving, I ensure that my skills remain relevant and valuable in a rapidly evolving data landscape. Question number 27. Describe a time you automated a data process. Hiring managers ask this to assess your efficiency and ability to improve workflows. They want to see that you can identify repetitive tasks and optimize them. A strong answer should include the problem, your solution, and the impact. In one project, I noticed that a recurring reporting process was being done manually each week, which was time-consuming and prone to errors. I analyzed the workflow and identified steps that could be automated using tools like SQL and Excel. I created a process where data was automatically pulled and updated, and then used formulas and scripts to generate the final report. This significantly reduced the time required to complete the task and improved accuracy by minimizing manual input. It also allowed the team to focus more on analyzing the data rather than preparing it. After implementing the solution, the process became more consistent and reliable. This experience showed me the value of automation in improving efficiency and reducing risk. I now actively look for opportunities to streamline processes and make workflows more effective wherever possible. Question number 28. What is your approach to data storytelling? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate how well you can turn data into compelling insights. They want to see that you understand how to communicate findings in a way that drives action. A strong answer should include structure, clarity, and audience focus. My approach to data storytelling is centered on making insights clear, relevant, and actionable. I start by understanding the audience and what they need to know, because different stakeholders require different levels of detail. From there, I structure the story by first presenting the key takeaway, then supporting it with data and visuals. I focus on highlighting the most important insights rather than overwhelming the audience with too much information. In one project, I presented customer data by focusing on a clear narrative around user behavior, which helped the team quickly understand the issue and take action. I also use visuals strategically to reinforce the story and make the data easier to interpret. My goal is to connect the data to a real business impact, so stakeholders not only understand the insights but also know what to do next. Question number 29. How do you handle tight deadlines on data projects? Hiring managers ask this to assess your time management and ability to perform under pressure. They want to see that you can maintain quality while meeting deadlines. A strong answer should show prioritization, communication, and focus. When working under tight deadlines, I focus on prioritizing the most critical aspects of the project and maintaining clear communication with stakeholders. I start by understanding what is essential for decision-making and ensure that those elements are completed first. I break the project into smaller tasks and manage my time carefully to stay on track. If needed, I communicate with stakeholders to set realistic expectations and provide updates on progress. In one situation, I managed a tight deadline by focusing on delivering the most impactful insights first, which allowed stakeholders to make timely decisions while I continued refining the analysis. I also make sure not to compromise on data accuracy, as quality is just as important as speed. By staying organized and focused, I'm able to deliver reliable results even in high-pressure situations. And finally, here's the final data analyst interview question. Question number 30. Why should we hire you as a data analyst? Hiring managers ask this to see how well you can position yourself as the best candidate. They want confidence, clarity, and alignment with the role. A strong answer should combine your skills, mindset, and value. You should hire me as a data analyst because I bring a combination of technical skills, analytical thinking, and a strong focus on delivering actionable insights. I don't just analyze data. I focus on understanding the business context and translating findings into meaningful recommendations. I'm comfortable working with tools like SQL, Excel, and visualization platforms, and I continuously look for ways to improve efficiency and accuracy in my work. I also prioritize clear communication, ensuring that stakeholders understand the insights and can act on them confidently. Beyond my technical abilities, I bring a mindset of curiosity and continuous improvement, which helps me adapt and grow in a fast-paced environment. I'm reliable, detail-oriented, and focused on creating value through data. Overall, I'm confident in my ability to contribute to your team by turning data into insights that support better decision-making and drive results. If you want to learn more on how to land jobs and reach your career goals, don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell notification button to get new videos every single week. Also, don't forget to hit that like button because that motivates me to keep doing what I do. Stay safe, keep smiling, and good luck.